For me, gaming and depression are really tightly wound around each other. So my story probably starts more with the depression than it does with the gaming. I've had many, many years of episodes of depression being bad and then not recovering all the way in between. And during that time, I would play some games for sure. And even somewhat addictively, because I was not terribly good at controlling like when I stop or that sort of thing. So I could easily be playing the same really incredibly stupid game for 3 or 4 hours, but I wasn't playing for 6, 8, 10 hours, and it wasn't affecting the rest of my life as much as it did later. So I felt like, well, um, I'm depressed anyways. Life kind of sucks, and I might as well kill time that I would otherwise be killing by feeling lousy, by escaping from feeling lousy. I kind of operated in that mode and doing my best to make the depression better and to build my life back up from depression crashes. Even with that, I'd feel like I was building it up. Start to get something coming together. I'd find something I was looking forward to doing, and then I'd have another major episode of depression and everything would fall apart again. So it never felt like things were really getting together. The last section of the big downhill spiral probably started maybe 2.5 years ago, a little more than that, when I was finished my master's degree and had somehow pulled that off. During the middle of that, I'd had another really bad episode of depression, and I've been really hopeless. It was probably the most hopeless that I had been all the way along. As I've always had some sense, well, maybe it'll get better. Maybe if I try this other new treatment for depression, maybe if I try this other medication, maybe if I try whatever it is, then it'll get better. In this case, nothing was working. And by the time I found something that was sort of working enough to at least get back to semi normal, semi functional life, I'd really gone through pretty much everything for treating depression, like 20 plus medications and various combinations, all sorts of different therapies. And I just hit a dead end and I was feeling hopeless and just trapped. And I was at a point where I'm like, okay, well, what does the future hold? Well, not a whole hell of a lot. The middle of all of that, I stumbled on an MMO and discovered the world of social gaming to add to the world of obsessive playing mindless, really stupid games that are irrelevant and just kill a hell of a lot of time. Um, and that escalated gaming from, maybe 3 or 4 hours to a heck of a lot more than that, and was an amazingly good way of escaping and not being present. And it made the depression not as bad. What more can you ask when you have no hope for the future and so I have something that makes the present suck a little bit less? But me being me, I'm a little bit stubborn and a little bit persistent and a little bit don't really like to give up, even if my emotions are telling me there's nothing worth fighting for right now. Over time, I'd be like, okay, I should at least try to do something. I should at least try to work a little bit more. I should at least try to go to bed earlier. I should at least try to get things done before I start gaming in the morning. All of those I should at least try is very seldom worked. Very, very seldom worked. Once in a while, I succeeded at it for a short period of time, maybe a day or two. But that I should do this is just was really useless. So yeah, so that continued and continued. And meanwhile, the rest of my life wasn't, things weren't totally falling apart, but things weren't going well. I, I didn't have a lot going on in the first place. Had two very, very part-time jobs, working maybe 5, at most 10 hours in a week, both jobs combined. I wasn't in a relationship with anybody. I gradually stopped talking to friends. And so I didn't really have people around to mess things up with, and I didn't really have work to mess things up with. And I had some amount of financial stability with, because I'm on Social Security for depression, and so so that wasn't falling apart, but I wasn't going anywhere. I was trapped. I was just stuck. It was like the endless doing the same thing and feeling hopeless and feeling like every little attempt to make a step forward didn't go anywhere. It wasn't living. It wasn't, I was alive, but which is more than can be said for some of how I felt when the depression was really, really bad. But, but it's not really a life. And so somewhere out of that, I had therapy. I mentioned my giving to my therapist. It occurred to me maybe I was playing a little too much. And she said, well, it sounds like an overused coping skill. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, okay. I'll buy that it is overused. I'm not sure that I would call it effective as a coping skill, but it's definitely overused. So, and you think it's okay and that I'm getting positive things out of it. Oh, good. Let's just go back to playing. And so, but I did notice that I was having some trouble with PTSD symptoms. So I talked to my psychiatrist about that. Didn't really talk to my psychiatrist about gaming. After all, my therapist said it was fine. And he suggested an intensive outpatient program that was designed for people with PTSD and addiction, thinking, well, the PTSD part is relevant. So I did that program. I started that program, and that's somewhere in the middle of there mentioned, I tend to play games a lot, and, should I be concerned about that? And again, I got, well, it sounds like an overused coping skill. I'm like, okay, all right, that I can live with that. But meanwhile, I'm still feeling hopeless, like life is nowhere, not going anywhere. I have no future, and yeah, the things in the program are helping a little bit, but it's not getting me anywhere. It's not getting me out. It's not getting me to see sunlight. It's just getting maybe a little less bad. That's pretty much where I got with it. So then somewhere along the line we had a worksheet on addiction, which I looked at. I'm like, well, maybe I'll apply it to gaming and see what it says. And I like check, check, check. And should I be concerned about this that I checked yes for all of the things on this worksheet about addiction when you told me I have an overused coping skill? And so that kind of hit home and said, maybe there's really a problem here. Maybe I can't just ignore this. So I made some more serious efforts to try to moderate. I said, okay, well, it would be good to have a little more control over this, right? So I'm going to try doing these like 10 things and set things up just right with the incentive that I know that this program's probably going to tell me I have to quit if I can't succeed at moderating. And let's see if I can moderate. And yeah, that lasted for about a week, maybe a week and a half. And then I started coming up with brilliant ideas like I'll just play before noon and after 6 so that I see sunlight during the middle of the day, which sort of kind of worked with the exception of the fact that I played from the time I woke up until noon and 6 o'clock until the time I passed out at night. So not overwhelmingly successful. Anyways, so somewhere along the line, I guess something snapped, something hit me and said, I can't do this. This isn't working. This isn't like, if I can just barely control this and I'm getting all this support from being in this program, then how on earth, when I'm done with this program, am I going to have any control whatsoever over this? It was out of that I said, okay, I guess maybe I need to stop, which was really scary. And I had the sense to go looking for online resources pretty quickly. So I came here like a day or two after I stopped. And so I've had the support, which there's no way that I could have done it without having the community here. I couldn't have done it on my own. And it took a lot to feel like it was okay to reach out. It took a lot to feel like it was safe. It took a lot to feel like anything. I stopped, and the withdrawal itself reminded me that like just how bad it was. Wow, if I can have this much of a reaction to stopping, what does this say about my playing? Unfortunately, stopping meant that I didn't have this nice thing that was masking the depression. So I had a good number of months of more depression, which meant there's some relapsing along the way. Not tons, but some. A day here and a day there. Little by little, I've started to get some of myself back. I think maybe a month or two ago, I started noticing, wait a minute, I'm actually starting to be a little bit curious about the world again. I'm starting to be a little bit curious about the things that interested me, and that, like, I'm interested in science. Generally, that's sort of founded in curiosity, and for years I wasn't feeling any of it. So it just felt like a piece of me had died, and it started to come back. And little by little, some of the depression has lifted, and so I'm starting to see a little bit more light. I evaluate things on the good scale as opposed to, well, that was a less bad day. I might say that it was actually a kind of good day. So that's 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 improved a bit. There's little signs of improvement. It definitely comes and goes, and I definitely have my better and my worst days. But it is improving. I still struggle with the addict brain voice that tries to tell me, well, maybe you're not addicted. I'm not struggling with it quite as much as I used to, but it still kind of sticks around. I still struggle with getting to the point where I feel like I've done everything I possibly can to fight off a relapse, and just like fighting and fighting and doing and trying everything I know and using all the skills that I have and reaching out, and not having that be enough to fight it off. But I come back, and I figure that counts for a lot. The last time was 3 weeks ago, and it was not terribly easy to come back, but I'm back. So whatever part of me that's determined to try to have something more in life seems to be, at least is trying to be, the part that's winning the fight, the part that's in the part that gets the loudest voice over the parts of me that get stuck in depression or get stuck in addiction. So I'm here putting one foot in front of the other. And I have little bits of hope, not all the time, but it's there some of the time. And that's a lot more than it was a few years ago. I'm grateful for that. And I think I will end there. So thanks everybody for listening.